Soldier's Heart by Alex 51324. Chapter 29. The Peter Letters. Part 5. 25th of December 1917. Happy Christmas, dearest. We didn't manage much of a celebration this year. The shortages are something awful. We all saved what we could from our parcels, but it didn't amount to much, and we're all bitterly disappointed to still be here. We did rather get our hopes up when the Americans declared. What have they been doing with themselves? The propaganda papers that they give us don't say. We can only guess that they are still in the war, because if they'd backed out, the Germans would be sure to tell us that. But other than that, we are getting on all right. Miss you. 5th of March, 1918. Sorry, I haven't written in a while. I say as though you would have noticed the lack. Spirits are rather low here, as our hosts have been boasting of the Russian surrender. The propaganda papers have painted it as the beginning of the Germans' inevitable victory, but our latest patients, come fellow prisoners, assure us that the Russians have scarpered to deal with their own troubles at home, and since England and France are not on the brink of revolution, there is no fear of our following suit. They also say we can expect real help from the Americans in this year's offensives, though nobody knows very much. We are all sort of guiltily hoping for an American prisoner to join us and give us the inside information. I've been thinking lately about how funny it is what one can get used to. We get up each day and do our work, the usual sort of hospital things, and eat our meals and wash out our socks, etc., and altogether don't think very much about the fact that we're being held captive deep inside enemy territory and haven't been out of this building in over a year. They didn't let us out to go to church this past Christmas. Instead, we think about whether our only bar of soap will last until our next parcel, and when we will get a turn with a book we haven't read half a dozen times already. Books are communal property here, after the original recipient has read it. Early on, I used to sometimes forget and catch myself thinking about popping out to the shops for something, or about what I'd do on my next day out. That no longer happens. Instead, it barely seems real that life was ever any different than it is now. Now I sometimes catch myself wishing you were here with me. That sounds dreadful, I know. I wouldn't really want you to be a prisoner too, even if by some miracle you could be sent to this place. I suppose what I mean is that this place has come to seem normal to me, and that I miss you, of course. June 13th, 1918. One bit of war news that has reached us is the Allied bombing of German cities, because the Germans are furious about it. Never mind that they were doing the same thing from Zeps even before I was captured. And the propaganda papers they give us are full of news about their aeroplane production, so I'm sure they're still doing it. I think there must have been an incident that outraged them particularly. I hope to God it wasn't a school or something like that, although if it was, I'm sure it was an accident, just like their sinking our poor hospital ship all those years ago, and the RAF pilots are just as sorry as our U-boat chums were. I've been reading over my old letters and so thinking about them. The propaganda papers don't tell us about any German losses, of course, unless it's something we've done wrong that they can crow about, so I've no idea if anything's happened to them. I hope, let's see, I hope they're all safe and whole, but quarantined in port with measles or something, so they can't sink any more of our ships. But I was talking about the aerial bombing. A group of outraged hospital staff herded us, the orderlies I mean, up onto the roof with buckets of paint to put the sign of the Red Cross big enough to be seen from the air. We were given the impression that this was something in the nature of a reprisal for our countrymen's perfidy, but I think it an excellent idea and would have suggested it myself had I thought of it first. Although, had the project been voluntary, I might not have gone along. I was unable to do any actual painting, needing one hand to hold on to things, and not having a spare, so my participation was largely symbolic. A group of German civilians formed on the pavement below and yelled as we worked. It was quite impossible to tell whether they were cheering or jeering. Perhaps a mix of both. 22nd December, 1918. We got a new patient the other day, a downed RAF pilot. He is the first in some time to have come to us direct from the war and not from a prison camp here in Germany. He tells us that the last big push actually succeeded, and that we are now pushing the German lines back. I suppose you must already know this. The English papers would certainly be covering it. Here we have had no propaganda papers for some time, and our hosts have been more careful than usual about making sure that we do not see German ones. This had, of course, led to much speculation that the war is going badly for them. They make no effort to keep secret anything which might demoralize us, but we tried not to get our hopes up too much. Now that we have this certain knowledge, though, it is difficult not to notice a dispirited air in our hosts, and an increased flow of German wounded into the other wards, and various other clues which suggest a hopeful outcome. You know what I mean, of course, though I hardly dare to say it. We've all begun to think that, just maybe, we might be winning the war, that we might soon be coming home.